Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Tech It Up with Café Cultura. It's your girl Jaylah, and today I have a special guest, founder Scott Remington. Hi Scott, how are you today?
I'm so well. Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to have our discussion today.
Yes, I'm super excited. We were talking off air about some fun stuff, so I'm already in the mood, hyped, ready to go. Can't wait to talk about the giving engine. Tell us a little bit more about yourself, and then a little bit about the giving engine.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first I said thanks so much for having me on. My name is Scott Remington. I have a little bit of a different founder story. I actually work in the field of philanthropy. So my job in life is to help others. That's kind of what I'm committed to. I grew up in Detroit proper. Yes, so I lived actually in the city limits and also in the suburbs too. So I got, from a very young age, I was always taught that you treat the janitor like the CEO and the CEO like the janitor. And I was really blessed to come with diversity and understand what privilege is, honestly, before privilege was cool to say, right? And so, one of the things that I always really tried to do and learn was to help others, right? And so my father actually started a company called the Remington Group. It's been around for almost 25, almost 30 years now, and he's helped raise over $5 billion for nonprofits. And one of the great things that I was able to learn through that was, how to help others, how to build relationships, how to listen. And long story short, fast forward to now the giving engine. I actually was out in San Francisco for a little startup grind, a global conference. Met a lot of cool people, and is super inspired to do something special. So last day, I'm in San Francisco. I'm going for a hike in Muir Woods, and unfortunately broke my arm and actually
Oh,
two heels. Right. So it was a crazy accident, and so my brother flew out. But as you can imagine, I had a lot of spare time in the bedroom, in the hospital
yeah.
bed. So I was reading all the headlines, and I try not to be political, but there's a lot of budget cuts happening. I mean, just changing priorities fiscally, and I saw that there was over 14,000 jobs lost in the nonprofit sector. And so I
Wow.
said to myself, it's like, what can I do to help? So I'm sitting there in the bed, very little coding experience, but I know AI pretty well. And so I just start building. I start building what is now today called the Giving Engine, right? And this was just a few weeks ago. Um, I've obviously have a great partnership with my father, Peter, and his firm. I try to honor his legacy. But this is a special product. The whole point of it is so that any nonprofit, right, any nonprofit in the country can come and get an awesome 2 to 3, not only grants, but also like a toolkit, right? Help built through AI for a very, very cheap price, $199, right? One of the things that I always try to do is to augment, not replace with AI. And so instead of sales as a service, we call it philanthropy as a service, FAST, right? And that's the giving engine is and does. And we have, great vision on where to go forward, but it's a start. It's a start to help those that need help the most right now. I'm super excited that it's live now. I'll give it a little cheap plug, as they say in our world, giving-engine.org. Check it out. It's live. It's awesome. And it's a lot of help. My goal is to make it very affordable for any nonprofit size or shape. And these reports are awesome, Jaylah. They are so sweet. We obviously can't guarantee funding, but we can guarantee that you'll find some opportunities to get funded. And that's what's most important, to help those that need the most.
I think that's so important. First of all, I can't believe this has happened so quickly
Yeah.
because most of the time you hear, this is an idea 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 10 years ago, and now you had time off because of an injury, and you come up with this awesome idea, and it's such a beautiful thing because you're right. There are a lot of budget cuts, especially in the DEI section. There's a lot of just scared. It's scared money right now because we don't know where it's heading to with all of these what ifs. So to have at least an opportunity
Right.
like the giving engine to say, you know what, these are opportunities because, right, if you don't shoot the ball, you'll never make the basket. So at least you're shooting balls here until you make a basket. And that is such a beautiful thing. What has been one philanthropy or a couple of them that really push you to or keep you motivated?
Yeah, that's such a great question. So as I mentioned, growing up in Detroit, there was a place called Focus Help. And they really taught me It was started by Father Cunningham, and I want to get this right, in the 60s. As you can imagine, right, the 60s were a very tumultuous time in Detroit, right? There was a lot of race riots, a lot of scared, a lot of things that just weren't right on both sides. And so, that was one of the first organizations that I had learned about kind of what was fair and what wasn't. And the fact that you need to help no matter what, that no matter what someone says to you, love them back. And so for me, the organizations throughout the years have been so supportive to say, just help others, just do it. And it doesn't matter what it takes, it doesn't matter what technology. If you lead with your heart, good things will happen. Right. And seeing their mission, even now, like they still do phenomenal work. They help with workforce development. They help, train workers. Right. It's such a beautiful thing. And to me, what better way than to honor not only their legacy, but Detroit's legacy and all of our legacies by helping out, right? In a way. And that's what the inspiration was. And I'm sure I could list, countless others that I've been, so blessed to work with over the years. But I think that's the first one that comes to mind. I know Eleanor Jositis is watching and smiling from heaven. If you get a chance, Jaylah, you could Google her. She was an amazing woman, one of the first people that kind of just told me that Scott, we have a responsibility to help. And it really shaped me throughout my youth and my growing years.
How has this, in such a small amount of time, helped you connect with other founders? Because, regardless of the fact, like you said, you had very minimal in coding, but you're into the AI space, which is still developing quite quickly. And how is that, connecting with other founders, being in the Bay, doing all of that? Because I know it's almost like, when you're founders, you kind of get tidbits from a little bit of everybody.
Yeah, it's such a great question. And there was such an energy in the Bay that was so cool, right? I'm just a Midwestern guy. Like I'm from,
Yeah.
Detroit area, live in Lansing, the state capital, and to be there and just to be around people that generally want to help you. Some people, just there to be funded and bless their souls, right? Like I respect them, but there was just some people that I met that I won't name. They know who they are. Like generally interested, like, wow, you have a great idea. Let me connect you to this person, right? Let me connect you to this person. And the amount of love and help that I saw, that, for somebody that has helped raise, personally, I've helped raise over $100 million for nonprofits, right? Like I'm really proud of that. But hasn't done a raise for myself for a company. They're like, hey, let me be your angels, right? And let me introduce you to all these people. So I've met so many cool people in such a short amount of time that are like, hey, like, here's an application you should apply for. Hey, like, let me meet with you. I'm not going to charge you for your time. You're doing great work. And for me, then it's like, wow, how can I help your nonprofit? How can I help you? Because I went to Silicon Valley not for myself, but for another person that I work with, right? And ultimately, the universe, I think, is kind of paying me back here and saying, I'm going to introduce you to some of the coolest people, including yourself, right? When we're talking about something awesome before the show,
Yeah.
right? To move the story forward, because it's a story of all of us, right? It's in our most deepest thoughts, like, how do we help others? How do we love? How do we be better? Like, who doesn't want to be a part of that?
I think that tech has been, because I was in the entertainment industry for a while, so there was a lot of scapegoating, there was a lot of gatekeeping, and people kind of trying to, I guess, hold on to what little information they got. And to switch over to tech and see how open people are and how willing they are to help. At first, I was like, what's wrong? What's the catch, guys? And they're like, no, 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 no. Like, we genuinely want to see you grow. Like, this is so cool what you do. And I've found that that's been a lot of the case for most of the founders that I've talked to. I think that's the one thing that most of them have in common is that no matter what tech space you're in, which is ed tech, philanthropy, tech, AI, like people are open to help work with and build with you.
And it's such a beautiful thing. And I love you mentioned AI because to me, I have four things really close to my heart, and education is one of them, especially, seeing the Detroit public schools and seeing a lot of kids that didn't get an opportunity. They deserve that opportunity. And for me, the democratization of AI or democratization of education can come through AI. Like if we do this right, as you said, we don't have to gatekeep education anymore, right? Like we can right a lot of wrongs through AI. And I think a lot of us as founders have a responsibility to do just that. Like these tools shouldn't be gate kept, right? And so it's so great to see a lot of people in the valley, and the pricing is not too high to use some of these tools, right? But anyone can use it. And so for me, that's why I wanted to build the back end of the giving engine through AI. Like I spend a lot of time with it, probably way too much. as we all do, to learn it, to not just as a tool, but as an intentionality, right? An intentionality of like, what are we trying to do? How can I have resonance that I treat it with respect and it treats me back, right? Not as a person or awake or anything, but as like a, just a partner. And so that's kind of, why I love using AI, because it levels the playing field on so many different areas.
So I know you said you started this a couple weeks ago, but it's been kind of like a snowball, right? It started really small, growing into something way bigger. Where is the giving engine at this very moment?
Great question. So just launched, I mean, literally just this week. We already have a couple clients on board, which is exciting. So we're running their AI profiles, which is super cool. I think one of them is like, oh my gosh, Scott, you're going to have to help me because this is so complicated. I had no idea that $200 would turn like a $10,000 value. I'm like, great, let's book a time to help. And so we're just in the phase one of kind of the early, stages, getting the profile right, getting everything all buttoned up, ensuring the infrastructure. And we have some really cool plans for phase two and phase three that I think you'll love to hear about, because this isn't just going to be, kind of the deep research for grants. We have a lot of work to do. And I've been so blessed throughout my philanthropic career to go to so many different stops that I'm going to try to take all those learnings and put it into this product and build something that everyone can use.
That's amazing. Where do you see the giving engine within the next 5 years?
It's a great question. My goal and my dream is for at least it to be in 20% of all nonprofits in America, right? Like, because that means that we've got successfully raised, but more importantly, we've helped a lot of people, right? And helped with funding, helped with transparency. So, my vision is that not only, right, when we think about what do nonprofits need, right? They absolutely need funding, and that's kind of where the giving engine will start with helping. I'm not guaranteeing we say, but helping, getting the opportunity, right? But then also transparency too. Let's be very honest. There's been a loss of trust in institutions over the years, and one way that we can help get that trust back is through the blockchain. And so one of the ideas that I had is that why not? What if we put on all the donations, all the accounting on the blockchain? And that's going to take some time, right? This isn't crypto. And don't get me wrong. Like I think crypto can be a very beautiful thing if done correctly. This is, straight up on the blockchain. So, for example, let's say that Jaylah gives $100 to a charity, right? And she probably wants to know where that $100 is going to go. What if on the blockchain you could legit see that it went to pencils for students or paper, right? And that all those transactions from donation to program implementation was on. Like Jaylah is going to want to donate again because she sees where the money is going. It's not going in a black hole. And that's going to take a little bit of time in implementation and coding. But when I tell people that, their eyes light up because these institutions are some of the institutions that matter most in our world, right? These institutions are here to help. But why can't we help them with a little bit of transparency to rebuild the trust in communities, which quite frankly, I think could use some love as well.
Yeah, I absolutely love that because sometimes it's like everywhere's asking for things, right? You go into the supermarket, they're asking. You go to Walmart, they're asking. You go to Target, they're asking for donations. And sometimes people I know don't donate because they don't know where it goes. So having something like this where it's like you're almost picking, you know what I mean? Like where you want it to go,
Exactly.
which is great. And I know there's so many people that would do it for animals, but the same way they would do it for children or do it for women in domestic violence. So I think it's such a beautiful thing that the giving engine is helping in all aspects. It's not just one focus on like one philanthropy. And I think that makes it very special.
And thank you so much for the kind words. And it has to be, right? Because there's so many problems. And I'm not going to pretend we can solve all of them, but why can't we try at least to start somewhere? Help, as I said, with the democratization of education, right? Help our forests, right? I mean, there was just announced $2 billion in cuts for the forestry. I mean, like, those are places where our children go and play. Like, we need to protect that stuff. We need to protect community, right? Like, there's a lot of gentrification happening, right? Which, like, I mean, like that story needs to be told. Like, why can't we help preserve some of the things that matter most in our inner cities, right? Like, we're all in it together, and especially even the rural areas, right? Like, why don't they deserve, education? Of course they do, right? We need to not, gatekeep all this stuff. And so if the giving engine can help, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to discriminate. It's, as long as it's a 501c3, right? It's a certified charity, we'll run it for you. Absolutely. It doesn't matter what you're trying to raise for. Who am I to judge, right? But if we can help get grant opportunities to each and every, small opportunity in the country, that's a win for me. Like, even if I just help, and not a very good business model, but even if I would just help a few, like, that's a win, because we're making positive change and we're planting the seeds around the country. And if enough people feel inspired to make a difference, then maybe we can just make a better tomorrow. And I know that sounds a little cliche, but maybe we need a little bit more cliches right now. Maybe we need a little bit more community, because I do think, in my opinion, we're a little bit more separate than we have been in the past.
I totally agree. I think it's taking it back to basics. I think that's kind of what this situation in the world is showing us is go back to humanity, go back to basics, go back to caring for each other, working in a village, doing all of those things, because people have gotten so, I guess, greedy or like self-centered in a sense, because we have all these tools like social media and stuff that kind of want to keep you wrapped up in that world. And it's great to see that there's still people out there who are thinking human, but with the tech and AI twist. And I think that that's going to help the growth in what's going on. As a founder now, what advice do you give to other founders who want to start something or have an idea, or are on that cusp of, I want to do this?
Yeah, so I'm a little older, right? For, founder, 42 years old. I'm happy to say that. Like, I think it's important to follow your dreams, but it's also important to do some research first. Like, if you just jump right in, like, it's a competitive industry, right? Like, maybe you take some time to do an apprenticeship, like, maybe you learn from others. My best advice to give anybody is just to listen to those that have done it already, right? And even if you disagree with their opinions, like, you'll already be ahead of the game, because, as you kind of alluded to, social media, everyone wants to be the main character. We
Yep.
don't have to be. As a founder, right, part of your job is to put the pieces in order, right? And if you can build it, like, by learning from others' mistakes, maybe you won't have to fail where they did, right? And don't get me wrong, like, failing fast is a part of all of this. But again, my number one piece of advice is to listen to those that have already done it. And usually that'll take you in the right place. And also, too, build relationships. We could keep coming back to this, this community, Jaylah, and I totally agree with what you were saying, that, like, we need to build it back up. But if you have a community of people that have already done this, best to listen to them, ask them questions, right? And I'm pretty sure they'll help you along the way.
I love it. And I wanted to say, I wish I wish you luck with your healing. I'm glad that great ideas came from it and that you have so much to give with the giving engine. And what is the best way for someone to get in contact with you, whether it's investors or supporters or anybody who wants to work with the giving engine?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm an email hound, so email is the best way to get to me. It's Scott at giving-engine.org, or you can find me on LinkedIn. Scott Remington. Again, like, I love to network. I love to, just listen and, talk shop. It's not a bad idea per se, but yeah, no. So Scott at giving-engine.org. And then, you have a LinkedIn below. So yeah, happy to have a conversation.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Scott, for being with us. And I look forward to touching base with you again and seeing where the giving engine is. I don't think you even have to wait a year. I think in a couple months we're going to be having another conversation about the progress and the status of the giving engine for
Well,
sure.
thank you. It was an absolute pleasure being with you. And I have a funny feeling we're going to be starting some other type of podcast too, Jaylah.
I think so too. I definitely think we connected in that world.
All right. Well, thank you so much. It really has been a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Scott, for being with us. That was another episode of Check It Up with Cafe Cultura. It's your girl,